The breathtaking Red Bull X Fighters World Tour has reached a monumental milestone in its incredible history. Its 50th jaw-dropping event. 6 continents, 14 seasons, 21 stunning locations, 84 fearless riders and 18 different winners. The landmark moments. And of course, the riders that, at every one of the 50 events, have continued to push the boundaries and their bodies beyond what should be scientifically possible. Making this remarkable competition the premier event in the freestyle motocross calendar. And one of the most awesome spectacles on the planet. Along the way, we will be inducting a select few heroes that have shaped the sport and shaken it to its very foundations into our very own Wall of Fame. Freestyle motocross has consistently astounded us all.
And he lands it! Yes! Yes! Thomas Paget lands the flare here at Red Bull X Fighters competition.
And the progression we've witnessed in the sport over the course of each Red Bull X Fighters season has proved that there are still plenty more surprises to come. But before we look to what might lie in Red Bull X Fighters' future, let's go back to where it all began. Freestyle motocross doesn't have its origins on incredible courses constructed at striking locations like Moscow's Red Square, the Pyramids of Giza, or Osaka Castle in Japan. Before any rider ever threw their leg over a bike in an historic bullring, they were launching themselves off more naturally occurring features, like the Glamis Dunes in California.
Back in the day, freestyle motocross was all about big air and individual style. The original freestyle guys were, basically racers that were winning races and doing tricks.
People had an idea and a vision. Could see that there was something in freestyle motocross, but at the time it was just loose. It was a bunch of guys doing all these unstructured events all over the place in really unorthodox locations.
They took the punk sport of freestyle motocross and they put it in this really traditional setting. Like, there's nothing more traditional than a bullring in Spain.
And so in the summer of 2001, at the Plaza de Toros de Valencia in Spain, the stage for the first ever Red Bull X Fighters event was set. And the world of FMX took its first steps into an entirely new era.
Red Bull X Fighters wasn't necessarily the first organized contest or anything that brought riders together, but it was definitely one of the first that they put time and effort and a thought into why we're scoring the guys and how to score the guys and how to bring the best out of them.
The lineup of riders gathered for this inaugural display included Xavier Faber from France, Spain's own Edgar Torres, and from the USA, one Mad Mike Jones.
Mad Mike Jones has the most fitting name of anybody ever in freestyle because he is just a mad dog, and he rode his bike like a mad dog. When it was showtime, he would do anything for that crowd and anything to try to win an event.
The 12,000-strong Spanish crowd was stunned by what they saw. These riders were pioneers, blazing a path for generations of riders to follow.
Everyone that got involved and got invited probably thought it's a novelty event. And then when they got there and they saw how well it was received by the crowd and the atmosphere and the intensity, I think they realized that there was a bit of a magic in the combination, and it was really exciting times.
And the one rider that would stake his claim on a particular piece of Red Bull X Fighters history was Mad Mike Jones. He took the win in Valencia and became the first winner of a Red Bull X Fighters event. The foundation stone was laid that night in Valencia, a night when freestyle motocross made the transition from the wild backcountry of the USA to an astounded audience in a bullring in Spain. As the first Red Bull X Fighters winner ever, Mad Mike Jones's name will rightfully reside in the history books of FMX, and it is only fitting that he should also be the first rider inducted into our Red Bull X Fighters Wall of Fame. After the impact made by the first event in 2001, Red Bull X Fighters returned for a second time, moving from the bullring in Valencia to Madrid's legendary Las Ventas. The crowd doubled in size from the previous year, filling the arena to a crazed capacity of almost 20,000 FMX fans. It was another mind-blowing series of battles between legends like Mike Metzger and the 2001 winner, Mad Mike Jones. But it was the homeboy, Spain's Edgar Torres, that lit up the Latin passion and took the trophy this time round, firmly securing Red Bull X Fighters' foothold as one of the major events in the FMX calendar and Europe's biggest FMX event. 2003 was to bring about some major developments. Not only did the lineup of events increase from 1 to 2 this year, with both Valencia and Madrid staging competitions in their historic bull rings, but Red Bull X Fighters and the entire sport of FMX was to witness one of its first major evolutions. It was at Las Ventas in Madrid that a new rider to the competition, a fresh-faced 18-year-old from Phoenix, Arizona, took the unsuspecting Spanish crowd and the freestyle world by storm.
Nate Adams was a different breed. He was a kid that was more like a work in progress. You know, he charged hard, he was, you know, willing to throw it all out there, but he didn't have the style, he didn't really have the motocrosser agility, but his tricks were on point. He brought the first backflip to Red Bull X Fighters. It brought a serious side to freestyle.
When I first see that, I was like, why I didn't ride? Because I was flipping too, and I didn't get in bait.
The backflip had arrived at the X Fighters party in Madrid and continued to turn things upside down at the following event in Valencia, with even more riders pushing the boundaries to pull off the backflip. After those scorching nights in Spain, the world of freestyle motocross would never be the same again. And it's all thanks to the bravery and unbelievable talent of one young man. In rightful recognition for that groundbreaking backflip he performed in Madrid, which became a truly pivotal catalyst in Red Bull X Fighters' progression, Nate Adams becomes the second rider to earn their place on our Wall of Fame.
I'll just let the ride and do the talking. I just found out that's the best way to do it.
At Las Ventas in Madrid, Nate had set a new benchmark that every other rider had to meet, and for some, trying to keep up with the curve ended in disaster.
The backflip was one of those things that just didn't go right for everyone. One of the more significant earlier ones that I remember was the back flop by Mad Mike. He was not ready to be doing backflips at that time, but that's the power of the crowd, that's the power of Red Bull X Fighters.
But Mad Mike isn't the only rider to get caught up in the moment.
All this gives you so much adrenaline, and it could be your best friend or your worst enemy.
As it was for Robbie Maddison in 2010 when he let his pre-run entertainment get a little bit out of control.
Motivate himself one more time and...
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
No one likes to get caught with their pants down like that. Even worse, though, to end up with a wedgie mid-run, like Andre Villa did in Madrid 2008.
Oh! And the one place you could possibly get a bike stuck on this track, Villa finds it.
But the king of all calamitous moments has to be the Czech Republic's Libor Podmol.
First year we did Rome, Podmol drops in for his run, and he's just so amping to go.
Hey, Levi, Podmol taken to the course.
I was like, so much adrenaline. Yeah, let's do the biggest no wheelie ever.
And that thing just hooked up and threw him down so bad.
Whoa! Wow!
Damn.
I think he ended up breaking his collarbone or something. And, I mean, I felt bad for him.
Yes, Libor, congratulations.
The riders returned to do battle in the bullring of Madrid for the only Red Bull X Fighters event of 2004. Such was the pace of progression in the sport now that the backflip had gone from something most people thought impossible to an almost standard feature in most riders' runs. In fact, riders were now not only performing backflips with ease, they were laying down backflip combinations like backflip seat grabs and heel clicker flips. Nate Adams's incomprehensible riding continued to be a force for change, along with talents such as Ronnie Renner and Mike Metzger. Also joining the ranks of riders, a new face on the Red Bull X-Fighters scene, the legendary Travis Pastrana, whose unbeatable abilities and showmanship would steer the sport still further as it rode a wave of evolution. The following year, after continued success in Spain, Red Bull X-Fighters staged its first ever event outside Europe, bringing the best riders in FMX to compete in the biggest bullring on the planet, the monumental Plaza de Toros in Mexico City. The growing popularity of the sport was proved by the capacity crowd of over 40,000 fans packing the arena. And the riders proved why FMX was becoming one of the most incredible spectator sports in the world by putting on another electrifying competition that was eventually won by Ronnie Renner.
It's the best feeling in my career to be toted around that stadium in front of all those people. Not a feeling like it.
After kicking off the 2005 season in spectacular style in Mexico, Red Bull X-Fighters staged its following event in what was now becoming its spiritual home, Las Ventas in Madrid. The fanatical crowd put on their unique display of appreciation for the riders who responded by delivering a classic night of competition that ended with the trickmaster Nate Adams finally taking first place. The lineup of events in 2005 were the blueprint for the 2006 series, with Mexico City and Madrid staging the 8th and 9th Red Bull X-Fighters competitions. Fans were now being stunned by an ever-increasing level of skill being displayed by a truly international lineup of riders.
The first time you got this meeting of the big guns from the continent, that's why the people went nuts, because they had the stars coming over from the New World fighting against, the legitimate contenders from Europe.
2007, and X-Fighters was becoming a global phenomenon. But this year had special significance as the X-Fighters moved from the exclusive bullring locations into new inspirational arenas. It reached double figures with its 10th competition in Mexico City, and was once again turned into a riot of creative FMX conflict. But it was the next stop that was a new direction for the event. Instead of the bullrings that have housed every event so far, Red Bull X-Fighters instead built a very different course against the backdrop of historic Slane Castle in Ireland.
We go to the beautiful, lush green fields of Slane Castle in Ireland and built this huge course that I think it just blew people's minds. They did not expect that an X-Fighters event could have that kind of course.
This stunning setting that had previously played host to the likes of the Rolling Stones, Madonna and Guns N' Roses was about to be rocked to its foundations by a very different sound, the roar of two strokes. It's not just the tricks that can be wildly unpredictable. The conditions that Mother Nature throws the events prove to be just as impulsive. But even though the rain fell in buckets on Slane Castle, dampening most riders' ability to really take on the course, there was one rider that refused to be compromised and displayed the pure pioneering spirit that has made him one of FMX's greatest innovators by the truckload. Travis Pastrana.
It was an amazing event. The course was probably the best I've ever gotten a chance to ride. And, you jump a castle on the right, huge crowd down below, and just like a rock concert where there's just crowds, sprawled out everywhere. Thousands of people, and it was really fun.
Red Bull X-Fighters had survived the testing conditions it faced in Ireland and rounded off its 2007 tour with a return to Madrid. Proving he was one of the greatest riders, whatever the weather and whatever the style of course he competed on, Travis Pastrana rode to his second consecutive win that season.
The impact of Travis on X-Fighters is just so big.
I'm
pressure if I started freestyle is because of Travis Pastrana. All my respect, all my freestyle spirit, all my inspiration, it all comes from Travis.
I don't even think there's much you really need to say about Travis. He just went for it.
Travis Pastrana has the incredible record of winning 4 of the 5 events he entered. And for every insane run, for being an inspirational game changer that was at the very forefront of FMX's evolution, Travis Pastrana earns a place to be forever immortalised on our Red Bull X Fighters Wall of Fame. In the space of only 12 events over the last 6 years, Red Bull X Fighters had gone from a single showpiece competition to a highly priced tour fought over by a field of international riders that were the very best in the world. And as every rider pushed the boundaries as they rode to win head-to-head battles, we all witnessed the sport develop dramatically in difficulty and detail. From what seems now like almost the most basic tricks to the hugely influential introduction of the backflip and every gravity-defying manoeuvre that was now being attempted upside down. FMX was pushing boundaries to the point of bursting its seams, and Red Bull X Fighters was about to get bigger, much bigger. 2008 will always be remembered amongst FMX fans as the year Red Bull X Fighters truly became a fully fledged international tour. This is the year it went global, expanding its lineup of stops from 3 in 2007 to 6. Taking in Mexico, making its first visit to South America with a trip to the Sambadrome in Rio de Janeiro, before coming north of the border to Texas, then crossing the Atlantic for the European legs in Spain, Germany and Poland.
By 2008, we had the craziest of venues that you can imagine. It was this amazing opportunity just to create playgrounds all over the globe.
Red Bull X Fighters brought FMX to the world that year and brought the hottest riding talent along with it. Competition has always been a driving force in development, and even though the 2008 title might have been won resoundingly by Matt Rebeaud in the end, the dirt bike battles fought in those arenas had set a new standard of riding that anyone who wanted a shot at the tour title had to meet.
You have always the best rider of the world, and when you win that, it's just a great feeling. Yeah, you cannot explain that.
For his stunning 2008 season, setting a hitherto unequal 4 victories out of 6 and even making it on the podium for the other 2 he didn't win. His points tally of 465 is the highest ever for a single season. For bringing a new level of style to the sport, Matt Rebeaud, welcome to the Red Bull X Fighters Wall of Fame. After Matt Rebeaud's devastating dominance in 2008, the international lineup of riders about to embark on their quest to dethrone the new crowned king of the two-stroke and take the 2009 Red Bull X Fighters title had spent their time off training hard and had a whole new wave of tricks to bring to the FMX table that would yet again reshape this sport.
This is incredible!
What would become apparent over the course of the following 5 events, however, was the higher you climb, the further you fall. Event 19 marked the start of the 2009 season, and a fresh new face joined the stable of riders competing in the monumental Plaza de Torres in Mexico City. A 17-year-old from New Zealand, Levi Sherwood.
How did he do that? You know, I've got no idea what to call that trick. I think we're going to have to call it a Sherwood.
It was scary in a way, just for the fact of riding with these guys I'd always looked up to.
Levi might have been an awkward, unassuming kid by comparison to the other battle-hardened riders in the competition. But when he rode out into that arena, it soon became clear he had something that would set the sport alight.
When Levi Sherwood came on to the scene, it was an exciting time because he had almost reinvented a lot of the standard tricks in how he went about the execution and how long he held it, and it's definitely pushed a lot of the other riders to up the game on that side of the sport, and I think a lot of people overlook that.
Levi's superb debut showing resulted in a worthy win and set the tone for what was going to continue to be a landmark season.
That really kick-started my career. I went from just doing demos to full-size real competitions.
This little teenage kid beat the best riders in the world straight up, and that's what's great about Red Bull X Fighters.
After a closely fought contest in Calgary, Canada, the Tour rode into Texas.
If you're going to take the sport and put it in America, then it has to be done in an American way. So of course the Americans said, let's put it in Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas.
And the course built in Fort Worth for the 21st Red Bull X Fighters certainly lived up to that reputation.
Lo and behold, it was like the stretch Cadillac of all courses. The thing was so insanely huge.
But even this massive construction was about to be dwarfed by the scale of the tricks about to be performed on it.
The trick evolution just kind of exploded that year, and what had happened was there were best trick contests where you just had to do one trick, huck it for all the glory. But now these guys were saying, I want to bring these best tricks and add them to a freestyle run. So you've got, Tom Pages going out and trying to pull a front flip, which it's still, even to this day, it seems unfathomable you could pull a front flip ever on a motorcycle, but he went to pull it in his run.
Oh, no.
Whilst Thomas was unsuccessful in his attempt at being the first to land a front flip in a freestyle run, another rider had his own plans to break the FMX mould.
My biggest trick's definitely a double backflip.
Double flip, it's crazy.
Cam Sinclair probably be the dumbest out of all of us, doing double backflips and stuff.
Pulling a double backflip on its own was generally considered crazy enough. Putting one into a competition run was certifiably insane. The question was, could Cam Sinclair do it?
Oh, here he goes. Shrugging the shoulders, he's looking for it. He's heading for his ramp. This should be it. And he makes it! The first ever double backflip in freestyle motocross competition, Cameron Sinclair!
The rule book had once again been rewritten. On that hot and humid night in Fort Worth, the world witnessed a new chapter in the story of freestyle. And the author? Cameron Sinclair. After the euphoria of the event in the USA, it was hard to imagine what would happen in Madrid for the following stage of the 2009 Tour. News of what the Texas crowd had been treated to spread around the world. An expectant Spanish crowd packed the Las Ventas bullring in eager anticipation of seeing for themselves what had been thought impossible for so long. But a high-stakes game like this can result in paying a terrifying price, as Cam Sinclair was to discover when he rode out for his run and a repeat of his incredible double backflip.
Oh,
I don't remember doing that. The major injury was just the life-threatening one was my liver. I latrated my liver and split that in half and almost bled to death. I was bleeding through my brain and I had brain swelling, and that's why I was in a coma for 7 days.
In his pursuit for progression, he had very nearly paid the ultimate price.
We're literally on death watch. The miracle of what happened that night, the fact that the right surgeons were there and could do the right operations that he needed at that hospital in Madrid, that is really, that's the low point of the glory that you can get from doing a big trick like that.
I think that shocked a lot of people because when they see us riding, they're like, oh yeah, that's fun, everybody have fun, and they didn't think what can happen if something go wrong. In freestyle, when you crash, you pay cash, then that's the main rules.
With Cam Sinclair thankfully in recovery, the 2009 Tour ended with Red Bull X Fighters' 23rd event and a first for London with a sensational season finale at the iconic Battersea Power Station.
We not only got to be outside Battersea and have it as a backdrop, but they let us play inside. So the start of that event was motorcycles jumping out of windows.
A fitting end to the most dramatic of seasons.
Nothing would stop us that year. If we came up with an idea, everyone was like, yes. It really, truly, 2009 was the yes year.
The riders on the Red Bull X Fighters Tour had yet again torn the fabric of FMX apart. And whilst 2009 had drama and disaster in equal amounts, in terms of new tricks, the 6 events in the 2010 season would be just as unforgettable. The settings for the 2009 tour had been something special, but it was about to enter a whole new league with simply unbelievable locations.
We reached 2010 and we've already done so much with the sport. The fact that guys are doing just the wildest things you could possibly imagine on motorcycles. But we're never satisfied with stuff like that, so it's like, why don't we take this sport and put it in the most iconic spots you could possibly imagine? By some miracle, we get permission to be in Moscow's Red Square, right on the wall of the Kremlin. But not only that, but we get to be at what is possibly one of the most iconic sites on the planet. Someone gets us the permission to jump on the Giza Plateau, 100 meters from the nose of the Sphinx, with the Great Pyramids as the backdrop. It blows everybody's minds. We're on every newspaper cover across the world because you don't expect an upside-down motorcycle in front of the pyramids. It should never happen, but we got it to happen.
The most incredible sport on the planet now had the most incredible stages on which to impress the eagerly watching world. Red Bull X Fighters marked past in its quarter century by returning to its hallowed home turf in Madrid.
You get the tunnel vision. It's cool. When you go in the tunnel, it kind of like gives you almost a second to like think about stuff.
The tunnel's the silence from the madness.
You realize it when you first come out of that tunnel. You're like,
The whole construction of the arena with like the 45-degree stands, the crowd's just so close. It's like the atmosphere, it almost takes your breath away.
Something's in the water over here, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool when you show up to an event and they got weed whackers and freaking chainsaws and horns. They're more amped than we are.
And Robbie Maddison had a special surprise in store for the faithful fans at Las Ventas.
Robbie Maddison! Wow, a body burial!
The legs almost missed the bike, but somehow I managed to clinch onto it like a cat and got it. I put everything I had into that, so I'm just glad that it paid off.
This new trick to Red Bull X Fighters and competitive freestyle for the first time deservedly also brought Robbie victory in Madrid. But it was to be his downfall as he prepared for the following event in London. Whilst practicing in Battersea, Robbie bailed an attempt at the vault badly, and although just battered and bruised, it brought an abrupt end to his season.
I saw Danny and Levi and Nate throw down some really solid runs, and I knew that if I wanted to compete with them, I'd have to put the trick in. So I went out there and practiced, kind of feeling nervous, but just headstrong that I'm going for the body varial. And in that moment, I went for the trick too early, it looped out, and this is the consequences. So tough day in the office.
Joining the elite Wall of Fame alumni is the mad dog himself, Robbie Maddison. A rider that has always been a daredevil, someone that has ignored all sense of personal well-being to bring entire arenas to their feet in wild appreciation of his electrifying edge-of-the-seat riding.
He's crazy. He's crazy.
A lot of people would say we're all crazy, but Maddison's the craziest dude out there by far. Like, Maddison has no fear whatsoever.
He's pushed more envelopes than an entire postal service, resulting in some classic Red Bull X Fighters runs, and capped by his heart-stopping display of the vault in Spain. Without Maddo, FMX simply would not be what it is today. After the UK stop, Red Bull X Fighters racked up its 29th event by rounding off the 2010 tour in Italy. where Nate Adams achieved another first to add to his illustrious Red Bull X-Fighters career by becoming the only rider to claim the Tour title for a second consecutive year. 2011 saw Red Bull X-Fighters reach its 10th year anniversary, and stadiums and arenas across the world were selling out to a huge international fan base. It chalked up its 30th event on Jumeirah Beach in Dubai. The Tour then encountered a spectacular showing when it staged round 2 of the championship on the parliamentary lawns of Brazil's capital, Brasilia.
We'd always sold out these events, like, you know, Las Ventas, there's 25,000 people, in Mexico, there's 40,000 people, so we were used to big crowds. But in Brasilia, we could just see people coming, and it just kept filling up and filling up. And it was already over 100,000 people.
It was a great course because the majority of the jumps were dirt. It was just big tabletops, big doubles. But it was really nice to see the guys battling on that platform.
A gargantuan course carved from the characteristic red soil of this South American city was only the start of the big things to come. Red Bull X-Fighters was already the most important freestyle tour in the world, and now it staged the biggest attended FMX event in the history of the sport. FMX had undoubtedly changed radically over the course of the last decade.
Go from like 01 to present day, Red Bull X-Fighters, we've come leaps and bounds.
The Red Bull X-Fighters Tour had evolved into the most spectacular competition in the freestyle calendar.
Back in my first events, it was just between 1 or 2 guys, and then the rest of the field were great riders, but they were almost like fillers. And now, at any event we arrive at, any one of the 12 guys on the day could take it. That's really a testament to how far the sport's evolved.
Something it continued to prove throughout the rest of this 2011 season. In Rome, Madrid, and even in the face of torrential weather in Poznan, Poland. With every leap into the unknown and every painful lesson learned, the riders continue to tweak the genetic code of freestyle. The Tour set itself up for a grand finale down under, on Cockatoo Island in the heart of Sydney Harbour, Australia.
Kind of like Alcatraz in San Francisco, it's an old penal colony in the middle of the harbor. Fantastic place, nice big flat area, view of the bridge. But then you start thinking, it's an island. Now you've got to bring tons and tons of dirt and ramps and TV trucks and everything onto an island. So what became this great location now became this absolute logistical nightmare, because it would take months beforehand to literally bring everything onto the island.
Making the most of competing in front of his home crowd for the first time, Australia's Josh Sheehan surprised us all by turning a bad landing into a moment of sheer brilliance.
He goes to do the simplest trick in the book over a double-double, and he almost crashes doing a whip.
Ooh, that one had to hurt.
Shakes it off, turns around, and he hits a double backflip.
Oh! Oh, man, double backflip!
I think it's the mechanical precision that Josh has that's the example of what you have to do just to make it possible to do it every time in a freestyle run, in a freestyle competition.
He might not have been the first to land this trick, but the audacity with which he pulled it out of the bag was simply top draw, and something unlike anything we'd ever seen before.
That was the first one I ever saw that just looked like he knew absolutely what he was doing. Just rolled into it, boom, timing, everything was so like spot on. I mean, it was amazing.
And Josh had every reason to be jubilant. Pulling off the holy grail of FMX for the first time in Red Bull X-Fighters since Cam Sinclair's fateful attempt 2 years earlier helped him walk away with the last win of 2011. But the Tour title that year belonged to someone else. A very special rider who takes one of our last remaining places on the X-Fighters Wall of Fame. He might be one of the smallest riders to ever compete in the biggest FMX tour in the world, but Danny Torres has been one of the most consistent craftsmen in Red Bull X-Fighters history.
It's the trick machine.
Wow! He just waited till the last second to pull that off.
Every time he does a trick, he takes an extra beat. And there's just that extra thousandth of a second that he seems to suspend himself or leave legs or other limbs just out there, kind of flits above it, like a bird.
With 41 Red Bull X-Fighters events under his belt, Danny has more starts than any other rider. He also has won more head-to-heads and competed in more finals than any other rider. Danny Torres, welcome to the Wall of Fame. In 2012, the Red Bull X-Fighters Freestyle Motocross Tour took a huge leap forward, fueled by one very special rider who reinvented himself and in the process rewrote the freestyle motocross dictionary. It started in Dubai with a course that included the biggest jump distance ever built in a competitive freestyle course. But the next event was a giant leap for FMX kind.
Freestyle motocross was born in the hills of Southern California. We found this great venue at Glen Helen, a great iconic spot within the motocross world. They've got these massive hillsides, and literally we were able to carve from an old motocross track a course that used all of the elevation changes out there.
Red Bull X-Fighters created the biggest course ever constructed that would test the world's best to breaking point. But neither of these massive developments could eclipse the enormity of the mind-bending display of skill Thomas Pages brought when he returned to the Tour that year.
Oh, he goes for it right off the bat! That's incredible, watch this, it's called the Bolt! What a way to kick off your run!
Everyone thought he dropped off of the face of freestyle motocross, and suddenly Tom Paget arrives back and says, hey, I'm giving freestyle motocross another go, but this time I think I'm going to leave the back flip out of my freestyle run and I'm going to try some other stuff.
Although Pages was performing runs that previously had only been dreamt of, there was one thing lacking from his trick list. He wasn't going upside down.
But I was not confident in my head, and now at this time my focus is just being different. I want to be Thomas and not be a rider, random guy who goes flipping and doing some good flip tricks. I want to be myself, and myself is just to be different.
After the huge course of Glen Helen, a tour moved over to Europe and the now familiar surroundings of Las Ventas Bullring in Madrid, where Levi Sherwood took a stunning victory and extended his lead in the overall standings. Next up was Munich's timeless Olympic Stadium, which became the stage for a night of huge drama and significance in the freestyle world. And the leading man, Mr. Thomas Pages, who proved you didn't need to go upside down to win an event.
Tom Paget does not backflip.
Well, not if you unleash the Vault, the special flip and the 540. Just...
Oh, and almost losing it!
All in the same run. A new marker had been laid down. The 2012 season was set for a nail-biting close, once again on Cockatoo Island in Sydney Harbour, Australia.
The story 2012 is how unbelievable that event became.
Every conceivable big trick that had been landed in freestyle landed there.
The riders systematically produced an encyclopedic display of the most audacious tricks known, including flawless double backflips from Josh Sheehan, Page's now signature showpieces, the Vault and the 540 flare. And perhaps to top it all, Jackson Strong delivering Red Bull X-Fighters' first full front flip.
And he's going for it! And he makes it! The front flip at the start of a freestyle run. Just take a look at this. Unbelievable.
Which he also went and bettered by doing it again, one-handed.
We'd had an entire year of competition, and it came down to the first place and second place rider in our tour meet in the finals for all the bacon. One run each, and one of them goes home as the champion. Levi Sherwood versus Tom Pages, and really the interesting story there is both guys coming into it are on their game, but something I think that day just forced Tom's hand and got in his head, and Tom was the first one to break and make the mistakes.
And although Thomas Pages has single-handedly shaken the FMX world to its foundations, it was Levi Sherwood who produced the huge tricks and impeccable style when it really mattered to take the title and fulfill his huge potential. Levi Sherwood, take your place on the Red Bull X Fighters Wall of Fame. As the Red Bull X Fighters World Tour hit its 40s, it showed no sign of slowing down. The 2013 season stands as a perfect example of Red Bull X Fighters past, present and future. The tour kick-started by paying homage to its history, returning to the traditional opening event location, the magnificent monumental Plaza de Toros in Mexico City, where Thomas Pages, the man that had lit the touch paper of progression with his red-hot riding last season, set out his intentions to continue where he left off with a sublime winning display.
To see him doing all of those new age type tricks in one run, again, it topped anything we'd seen up until that stage.
Following on from Mexico, X Fighters arrived at another familiar favourite of more recent years, Dubai. But this time constructed the course at the base of the tallest building on Earth, the towering Burj Khalifa. The 43rd event brought Red Bull X Fighters back once again to the original home of FMX, America. And if it was possible in the first place, an even bigger arena in the dirt bike mecca of Glen Helen. California's backcountry had been the playground that spawned this sport. Now, it was home to the most awe-inspiring course we'd ever seen constructed for a freestyle competition. Following the stop in the United States, Red Bull X Fighters prepared to stage its first event in the Orient. Japan has produced some electrifying riders, and the event being held in Osaka was to honour one that had become a Red Bull X Fighters legend, a firm favourite amongst fans and his fellow riders alike. This event was to give him a chance to ride in a competition he had brought so much to over the past 8 years, in front of his home crowd for the first time. Sadly for Eigo, Sato and the entire global family of FMX, this night would instead become one of heartbreaking remembrance. Before he was able to ride out at an X Fighters event in a country he was so immensely proud of, where he had done so much to inspire the new wave of homegrown talent, Eigo tragically died during a practice session at his training compound, doing what he loved most, going big.
Eigo had the best spirit out of anybody that I've ever met.
And now we get the sumo dance.
He was always trying new things and taking it to the limit.
His spirit on the bike was it's motivating, you know?
As a person, what an awesome guy. He was just one of those guys that always had a smile on his face.
If somebody needed guidance or needed encouragement, he was always there. Whenever he went out into any arena, he wanted to give 100% of himself, his abilities and his showmanship to the crowd out there.
He died, you know, doing what he loved, and he didn't let fear get in the way of doing what he wanted to do.
The loss of Eigo Sato was another deeply tragic example of what these athletes that ride the razor-sharp line between radical progression and potential disaster face every time they line their bikes up and launch themselves skywards. To go bigger, better, and more unbelievably than anyone has before. His attitude and infectious enthusiasm made the sport fun to be a part of and exhilarating to watch. And his unwavering support of his fellow riders gave them the confidence to stun and amaze the world with their abilities. The sport of FMX would not have become what it is today and will not be the same without him. After the emotive night in Osaka, it was perhaps fitting that at the last stop of the season, one of Eigo's closest friends would finally lay claim to the X-Fighters title that he so richly deserved. The scene was set at the magnificent Las Ventas in Madrid, and Thomas Pages prepared to bring his 2000 season to a spectacular conclusion by lifting the Champions Trophy.
He pulls out all of these amazing tricks.
Bingo!
He links them so well together, and it was the way he'd really revolutionized riding over the course of 2013 and turned the FMX world on its head.
He's got it. First action.
I don't think there was ever a more deserved championship than the one Tom got in 13.
As the most exciting and progressive rider of the new generation, an innovator that is leading a fresh revolution in FMX, Thomas Pages is the face of freestyle's future and takes his place on the Wall of Fame. 2014 and the Red Bull X-Fighters edges ever closer to the landmark 50th event. The tour kicked off in Mexico with everyone expecting Tom Pages to pick up where he left off. But freestyle motocross is anything but predictable, and Tom left the competition early.
What is happening to Tom Pages?
It was a resurgent Levi Sherwood who stepped up on the night to produce a flawless barrage of perfectly executed tricks.
Love the energy Levi's coming with right now.
To take the victory almost 5 years to the day that he won his first X-Fighters in the very same arena.
That really was a huge boost. It was something I needed, and just kind of made me realise I can go and do my own thing. And if people follow, that's awesome, and if not, then I'll still do it.
For the second stop, the tour travelled back to Osaka in Japan, where Levi showed Mexico was no fluke. He dominated the competition to take his second consecutive victory.
That was huge!
2 events down and 2 victories to Levi Sherwood. Stop number 3 and the spiritual home of Red Bull X-Fighters, Las Ventas Bullring, where there was a palpable sense of anticipation that something special was going to happen. The best exponents of FMX in the world were there, but they were also coming into the event in top form.
Oh my goodness!
The stars had aligned. Tom Pages had promised a new groundbreaking trick, and in the semi-final, the bike flip was introduced to freestyle motocross.
And there it is! Wow!
All this against Josh Sheehan, who was bringing the most dangerous trick in FMX, the double backflip. The final was the most hotly contested head-to-head in X-Fighters history.
And again!
It simply had it all. Tom Pages, the innovator, laid down the biggest run in history and took the victory, with Josh Sheehan taking second place.
Gets it again!
This, the 48th X-Fighters event, may well have had the same bikes and the same fanatical crowds as the first event some 14 years earlier, but the tricks performed bore no similarity whatsoever. A full evolution was complete. The question now was how to follow that. Well, that was simple. Leave the progression to the course designers and hold the 49th Red Bull X-Fighters on a lake, Munich Olympic Park and a floating FMX course. Tom Pages was again the man to watch after his performance in Madrid, but his bike flip let him down.
Oh, no!
And opened the door for Josh Sheehan to take the victory with tricks of huge power.
Double flip again! He's done it 3 times in a row!
Precision and finesse. That win by Josh put him just 5 points behind Levi Sherwood in the overall title race, with just 1 event to go. Destination, South Africa and the Union Buildings in Pretoria.
You have no idea how much I'd love to win this event. Sheeny's a tough competitor, I know that, so it's whoever finishes first.
But for Levi, it wasn't to be.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no, he goes down.
A fall in qualifying put him out of the title race, and Josh was gifted the overall Tour title. But the much prized 50th Red Bull X Fighters event victory was still up for grabs.
A series win and an event win would be, you couldn't top it,
And one by one, the pressure took its toll. First, Clinton Moore.
Oh no, he goes down on the flare.
Then, Thomas Pages succumbed to the flare.
The flare tsunami.
Oh no,
he goes down.
Leaving Josh Sheehan to take the victory and to thrill the 22,000 fans with a superb performance, including the bone-shaking double backflip.
Oh, perfect! Good!
A fitting end to the most dramatic season ever. And for Josh Sheehan's skill, power and fearless pursuit of progression, he is the final rider to take his place on our Wall of Fame. The 50 Red Bull X Fighters events have immeasurably changed the sport of freestyle motocross, creating one of the most spectacular shows on earth. But this has only been possible thanks to each and every rider who has quite literally put everything on the line time after time.
I think with the imagination of riders and their want to get better and to do something that nobody's ever done, this tour, the Red Bull X Fighters, having a platform for them to do it. I mean, if we keep this rolling, there's no telling what can be done.
To all those riders, we salute you, and we know you won't stop pushing the boundaries. What will the next 50 have in store for us? To find out, you'll have to check out the start of the next season when the Red Bull X Fighters World Tour starts again.